What's up everybody, RNC here, and in this video we're going to be going over the Magicka Nightblade PVE DPS build for the Dragon's Bones patch. Now the Magicka Nightblade is the strongest Magicka character in the game right now if used correctly and if the rotation is well practiced. So let's jump right into it. Going over the stats, we're sitting at 41.7k max Magicka, 15.7k max health, 2.6k spell damage, and 46% spell crit. Now the spell crit in combat is actually going to be sitting around 60 to 70% because we're using the mechanical acuity set, and I'll go over that in a little bit. All of our points are in max Magicka. Dark Elf is definitely the best set for Magicka Nightblade, or best race for Magicka Nightblade, because most of our damage is coming from Flame. However, High Elf is also a really good option to go with. I chose to be a vampire because of the 10% magic recovery that you gain from being a vampire, as well as the undeath passive. However, in trials where you're taking a lot of fire damage, I do recommend going to stage 2 or 1 or not being a vampire at all. The Apprentice Mundus is the best if you have a min-max group with Alkosh debuffs, Torag's Infused Crusher debuffs, Power of the Light up time. However, if you're doing solo content or your group is not min-max, go with the Lover Mundus Stone. In this build, we're going to be using Clockwork Citrus Fillet, which is the rich man's version of Witch Mother's Brew. However, if you don't want to waste money, it's fine to go with Witch Mother's Brew as well, just getting a little bit less sustain, a little bit less stats. If you feel like you're over sustaining at any point, go with the Buy Food, which is max health and max Magicka. For pots, we're using the Ancestral Spell Power, which is going to give you major sorcery, major prophecy, and major intellect. Best pots to use by far on any Magicka class. Let's jump into the gear. So on the front bar, we're using the Inferno Staff of Mechanical Acuity. Now to quickly go over the set, when you deal damage, you have a 15% chance to gain Unerring Mechanical Vision for 5 seconds, causing your attacks to always be a critical strike. 100% crit for 5 seconds. This event can occur once every 18 seconds, so even though there's a 13-second cooldown, the set is still by far the best in slot. Now many of you might be wondering why we're only using this on the front bar. Couple of reasons. One, because of the secondary set that I'll go over in a second, but mainly because on a Magicka Nightblade, most of your burst comes from your spammables on your front bar, so you want to place your dots, and then you want to proc Mechanical Acuity on your front bar when you're using all your spammable abilities, or executes. I recommend having 2 Inferno Staves crafted, one with the Flame Damage enchant infused, and the second with the Prismatic enchant infused. Flame damage is good for anything. Prismatic is good against Daedra and Undead. So on fights like Rakat and Vmol, first boss of Hellra, first 2 bosses in AA, I do recommend you use a Prismatic enchant. It's going to be a really nice DPS increase. On our back bar, we're using Maelstrom Inferno Staff infused with the Berserker enchant. That is definitely going to give you the best single target damage. Now, if your healers or tanks are not keeping up lightning blockades enough, you can also use a lightning staff to keep up lightning blockade for the off balance. However, Inferno Staff is going to give you the maximum damage possible. If you don't have a Maelstrom Inferno Staff, you can simply craft one infused and put a Berserker enchant on it. Now, as I mentioned before, Mechanical Acuity is going to be our main set, so we're going to have 1 piece on the front bar and 4 pieces on the body. Now, I recommend having a heavy chest and a medium piece somewhere else, so you can run the 5-1-1 setup. I chose to go with head, chest, waist, and hands of Mechanical Acuity. All divines, all max Magicka enchanted. We're going to use 1 piece Kina for the raw spell damage. In addition, we're choosing not to go with a 2-piece monster set because the second set that we're going to be wearing is always going to out DPS having a monster set. Now, there are 2 options for the second 5-piece set that we're going to be using. The second 5-piece set, the first option is Master Architect on the jewelry and 2 body pieces. They can go anywhere you want. This is the best set to use because our back bar ultimate is very, very cheap. It's 70 ultimate points only. So Master Architect is going to allow you to proc Major Slayer very often, which is as follows. When you use an ultimate ability, you and the closest 2 allies within 28 meters of you gain Major Slayer for 10 seconds, increasing your damage done to dungeon and trial monsters by 15%. So you're boosting your damage for 10 seconds by 15% and 2 of your allies. So make sure you're using this around damage dealers instead of tanks and healers, and that will require you to position yourself correctly and a little bit of practice. Now, if you're not able to go melee and use Soul Harvest, I do recommend swapping this out for Burning Spellweave, which is also going to give you a really good damage boost. It is also more useful in fights where you don't have the ability to use Soul Harvest, don't have the ability to go melee, or simply need a little bit more AoE damage, in which case you'll be spamming Death Rolls. So again, melee, any fights that allow you to go in melee range, use Master Architect. Fights that require more AoE or range, go with Burning Spellweave. And both of those will be 2 pieces on the body and 3 pieces on the jewelry. That's it for the gear. Let's go over the champion points now. So the red tree, I'm not going to go into too much detail about because it changes with every single trial that you're doing. But a nice balance red CP tree is 61 Ironclad, 29 Spell Shield, 37 Thick Skin, 49 Hardy and Elemental Defender, and 15 points into Quick Recovery. Again, those will always change depending on what trial you do. For the green tree, mine looks as follows. I have 100 Tenacity, 100 Arcanist, 20 Shadow Ward, 20 Tumbling. I know that the last 25 points only give you 1%, however, 1% of recovery and sustain is more useful than 10% of anything else I could get, in my opinion, so I do recommend you put 100 points into both of those. For the blue tree, I have 56 Elfborn, 49 Elemental Expert, 25 Spell Erosion, 9 Staff Expert, 61 Master at Arms, and 40 into Thaumaturge. It may not be the best CP possible, but it definitely works really well for me, and I know a lot of people on PC that have been using it and have had good results, so I do recommend using that CP layout. Now let's go over the rotation. So the rotation on a Magicka Nightblade is probably the hardest to do and requires the most practice, so I'll go over it in 3 stages. The first stage will be the simplest static rotation. It's not going to give you the most damage possible, but it is for new players who are just learning the class, haven't been on a Magicka Nightblade, and will still pull really good damage from range. So let's go over the stage 1 rotation now. It's going to look as follows. You're going to buff yourself before a fight with siphoning attacks first, most first resolve next. You're going to use Inner Light into a heavy attack and place your dots. Twisting will be first, Blockade next, Crippling, then you'll do 5 weaves on the front bar. Anytime your Merciless procs, you will use that instead of Funnel, and then you will do the rotation again. Twisting, Blockade, Cripple, anytime Merciless procs, you will use it, then you will re-proc Merciless buff, and do your last weave. So again, a little bit faster. Buff, buff, Inner Light, fully charged heavy, twisting, blockade, cripple, 5 weaves. We see the bow proc, we're gonna use it right away. Twisting, blockade, cripple, we see the bow. We're gonna re-proc Merciless to make sure it doesn't run out in the second rotation, and so on and so forth. When you see siphoning run out, you would use it either after you place all of your dots and just simply take out 1 weave on your front bar, so you would do 4 on the front bar, or if you see it run out during a rotation, say it would run out here, I could just simply swap and use it instead of 1 of the weaves. So that's the most basic rotation. In real time, it would look something like this if I was actually going to do it in an actual fight starting from the beginning. Buff, buff, Inner Light, fully charged heavy, ultimate, and we start the rotation. 3 dots, 5 weaves on the front bar. Use the bow anytime it comes up. Again, 3 dots, re-proc bow. I saw siphoning run out, and we're going to recast it. And then we start again from the beginning. Now, when the target hits below 20%, we keep the same rotation as we've been doing, but instead of using funnel health, we simply use Impale as our main spammable. So nothing really changes, but instead of using funnel health as your main spammable, you just simply use Impale as your main spammable. So in execute, my rotation will look like this. Twisting, blockade, cripple, then I spam execute, keeping up light attack, and so on and so forth. So that's stage 1, that's the most simple rotation you can do. It allows you to stay in range, still do good damage, but keep a static, easy to remember rotation. It will require you a little bit of practice, but it's easy to get. The next step for you would be is stage 2, where we start incorporating trap, which is a really nice buff because we're using a lot of crit, we're using mechanical cutie. And again, trap lasts 12 seconds, it arms 1.5 seconds after, arms for 6 seconds, then arms a second later and lasts for another 6 seconds. So you only want to use this every other rotation instead of every rotation. And the rotation with trap would look like this. We buff, we use twisting, blockade, cripple, now we use trap on the first rotation, and we do 4 weaves on the front bar instead of 5 because we use trap. The second rotation we completely skip, and it's as previously we did. And then we start over, twisting, blockade, cripple, trap. Then we do 4 weaves. Whatever the weaves are, we always do 4. Second part, we put our 3 dots down, and we do 5 weaves. Whatever they might be. So that's the slightly more complex version of the simplified rotation. Now, that will still give you the best damage, but however, if you want the best damage possible, you have to work on a dynamic rotation in a Magicka Nightblade. Best Nightblades in the game, such as Lane, or LZH, or Colt, they always have a dynamic rotation. So they're tracking buffs, they're tracking twisting path, they're not overlapping any dots. So you want to make sure that you're not overlapping twisting path that lasts 11.5 seconds, only use it as it's about to run out. You want to try to get 3 bow procs every single rotation, which will require you to swap bars and keep track of Merciless. So a dynamic rotation would look something as follows. Now I'm not the best at it, however I can try to show you the best I can do. So on and so forth. So that's a more dynamic rotation. Notice how I was getting 3 bow procs every single rotation, at least. I'm still working on trying to get 4. Some of the best Nightblades can get up to 4 with the next incremental patch. We still haven't had that Merciless fix where you can use it immediately as a procs. However, you see the point. We're not overlapping any of the buffs. We're getting 3 bows per rotation, so on and so forth. So it does require you a lot of practice. However, if you do put the time in, you put the effort in, Magicka Nightblade is the best damage dealer out of Magicka classes in this patch. So I do recommend putting in the time, putting in the effort, and learning the rotation. Anyway, I hope this video helped you out, gave you a basic idea of how to play the Magicka Nightblade in this patch. If it did help you out, if you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye bye.